The group play is over and now it's time to get down to business. Yes, commencing this weekend, it is the quarterfinals of the Gold Cup. Yes, teams start to get knocked out and go home after this. Welcome along to Inside the Gold Cup, the only show that reviews all the matches. A very, very special show for you today as well. We preview the quarterfinals that lie ahead. My name is Dennis Katsanos. I am your ship's purser. With me, the captain, Shep Messing, and his first mate, John Arks. Welcome along. Okay, well, I don't know if you like that or not. Welcome along, gentlemen. Shep, first up for you. Does the mindset, let's start coaching, does the mindset in terms of the coaching, sorry, I might have thrown you off a little with that. Does the mindset in terms of coaching change from group play when you head into the quarterfinals?
What a goofball. I'll tell you what, though, the mindset definitely changes because teams come into the tournament, I think John would agree that group play, they just want to survive, get out, do whatever they have to do. They worry about seeding later. They just want to get out into the phase of the tournament where they're going for the championship. And it's a totally different mindset. John is really the more expertise as a coach. I never cared for coaches. And maybe the coaches,
I'm glad
John,
you're like me.
No, you're like, but maybe the
That
coaches.
means I'm not a coach.
No, you're a coach. Maybe the coaches want the teams playing a little more conservatively. Different mindset, I know.
I think it does vary from game to game, Shep. I think the mentality and the approach. So, but I would agree with you in terms of the first round that you do go out there and kind of get a feel for things. You know, you're looking at the other side and you're thinking, how do we match up in the midfield, or is there one-on-one advantage for us? Or can we get the wings, locked down? Do we get our fullbacks overlap and things like that? And it kind of plays out itself as you get to the next round in terms of the knockout. I think it's more of an aggressive attitude. You've got to get the win, and you've got to get the really the first tackles in, push players onto the other team, make sure that they're forcing things into situations in the back, a little bit more pressure, and try to get the goal early and live off of that.
John, firstly, did you feel the pressure? And secondly, if you did, how did you cope with it, or how did you used to deal with it?
Well, I think, when you think about it, it's not really like pressure. You just kind of feel like this, all of a sudden, things are really more focused. And, especially when it comes down to, dealing with it, first of all, to answer your second part of the question, dealing with it is just like everybody has their own mindset. Individuals and personalities are different. Some guys listen to music to get them going. Some guys are just, and on their own in the dressing room or whatever. Some guys are bantering back and forth. So you deal with it in your own way. But having said that, I don't think it's like a real pressure thing. I just think it's all of a sudden you're fine-tuning things and you're sharper in your mind, and you got to make sure that everybody's on the same page in terms of chemistry. And if you work together, Shep, then that's when you get a real team result. That's when you get the
I totally agree with John, because players don't call it pressure. That's what you play for. I mean, you've worked the whole year. You're in training twice a day, once a day. You're playing for your club. Now you're playing for your country. You're in a tournament. It's not pressure. Pressure is the wrong word. I think it's opportunity. I mean, the players can't wait to collectively try and do something terrific. And that's the moment.
And that is the moment. You take in the moment and you realize the opportunity, like you said, in the situation. And so that's where you really got to start fine-tuning the details and everything as you go into that next knockout phase.
You hear of guys with the odd quirky ritual, whether they've got to wear, red socks underneath or particular shorts under their shorts and stuff like that, or some guys apparently, they trash the dressing room, they punch something or whatever. And I know I'm putting you on the spot, guys, but any examples, anyone that you've worked with that might have something a bit odd where the first time you saw it you thought, hey, what's going on here?
Well, I just think that, there's some things that are considered quirky to you,
There's
but
some things we don't talk about.
you don't understand. The old saying, we mock what we don't understand, but everybody's different, and there's individuals that are out there, and Dennis's question is like, one time I would, throughout a tournament, I remember I'd always have, like Shep said, he would do the coffee. I would have like a cup of tea after drinking probably 3 bottles of water, but I would have a little cup of tea before I went out. I put on my left sock first with my shin guards before my right. There's sometimes you do these things and you don't realize it, but subconsciously you're just preparing in a certain way that was successful for you before. So anything that gives you confidence, I think, Shep, and that self-belief, and you're going to go through that routine and do it again.
I totally agree, and they're rituals that prepare us in our own mind for success, because there's the physical part of the game, there's the mental component. I had a player on the national team with me that didn't shower a month before a game, so we didn't really like that. But but as a goalkeeper, I'm watching the Gold Cup games, and I would never shake hands because I didn't want anybody touching my gloves. Maybe they have Vaseline on or something. So
and you used to have a beard.
Beard, wouldn't shave for a couple of days. But I learned the gloves only work if you get your hands to the ball. So I might as well. I should have shook
Very
hands
good
anyway.
point.
Yes, well, next up on Inside the Gold Cup, we preview the first of the quarterfinal matches between Guatemala and Canada.
At the Gatorade Sports Science Institute, we test athletes in the lab. Because we know they'll be tested on the field. Gatorade, the most tested sports drink on the planet.
The screenings that happen here might be fun or dramatic, but it's not real life. There's another screening that is real life, and it could save your life. It's a screening test for colorectal cancer, the second leading cancer killer of men and women. Screening finds precancerous polyps so they can be removed before they turn into cancer. I got screened. Now it's your turn, so you can stick around and enjoy the show.
If you're 50 or older, get screened for colorectal cancer.
Work like a pro. Play like a pro. Tackle tough jobs. Dominate the game. Destroy the competition. Go professional. Choose Makita.
Welcome back to Inside the Gold Cup, my friend, where the quarterfinal matches commence this weekend, and this is how the matches line up. Well, first up, it's the Canadians against Guatemala, followed by the USA and Panama. And then on Sunday, Honduras take on Guadeloupe and Mexico face Costa Rica. Well, first up, it's Canada and Guatemala. A huge game for both teams. As we know, quarterfinals means knockouts, gentlemen. And for the Canadians, this is how they got to the quarterfinals. It was a couple of wins and also a loss for the Canadians. They started fantastically. A 2-1 victory over Costa Rica. Then, shock horror, the fairy tale story, Guadeloupe beat them 2-1. And they finished the round very strongly with a 2-0 win over Haiti. Well, Shep, what's been your impressions of Canada? You said first out in the first preview show you liked them.
Yeah, I did. I really thought Canada may be one of the times at the start of the tournament, one of the teams that could surprise people and win the whole thing. My confidence has been shaken a little bit by the bump along the road that they took against Guadeloupe, but I'll write that off to a coach that put the wrong goalkeeper in there, and that really started the downfall. I still believe in them. I like the Canadian team, Dennis and John. I like two players really in defense, Paul Steltari, and I like the goalkeeper, Onstedt. And John, I know you like a couple of their players in the midfield.
Absolutely. I mean, Di Rosario comes to mind, and De Guzman. You know, both those players. And I think, Shep, as we've always talked about, the strength of teams are really down that central part of the field, you know, the backbone of the team, as they say.
Spine.
Yeah, the spine. So, I mean, you're looking at it, they got a pretty strong team. You know, Stephen Hart, as you say, he has the option to kind of select different players and goalkeepers like he did with putting in Greg Sutton there to replace Pat Onstedt. But I think both of us agree, and even Dennis as well, that Pat Onstedt is really not just a good goalkeeper, but he's a calming influence in the back line. And that's a really important issue when it comes down to Canada, trying to get a result in this knockout stage.
Now, you touched on a couple of players, De Rosario and De Guzman. We'll start with Dero, I think, as you guys call him. Yeah, okay. Now, he's been playing out on the left, and he's been doing an incredible job, both on attack and defence, Shep.
Yeah, I think when it comes to De Rosario, he's a player that loves freedom. You know, he started out as a striker. He really became a great player when they brought him back into the midfield where he could run at defenders, have the freedom to go where he wants to go. He's got a great ability to strike a ball on goal, whether it's out of the run of play or on a free kick. He's good when he gets out wide. I think he's most dangerous. Got a little bit lucky on this goal. You know, takes the penalty kick. Got a little bit lucky on that as well. But I think he's a dynamic player and, you know, more of an attacking player than a defending player in the midfield. But I know John likes him as well.
Yeah, I think all those qualities that he has, Shep, the one-on-one attacking ability is something that he changes the game. And
Yeah.
you always look for a player that's going to make a difference for you, someone that can open up things. And when you talk about the one-on-one matchups, he's definitely got the upside in terms of taking people on. The other player I think that we haven't spoken a lot about, but Kevin Harms, who actually is doing quite well with the LA Galaxy this year. You know, younger player, not as much international experience as the other two before mentioned, but he's a player too who's strong on the ball, very hard physically, challenges quite a bit, and he's a ball winner. And I think he's doing a good job throughout the midfield as well when he's gotten his time on the field.
Yeah, that's the point, though. He hasn't been starting every game, so
Right.
be curious to see what kind of lineup Canada puts on the field.
I'll tell you about Paul Stelteri, and you touched on him, Shep. One thing I really, really liked about him is they were losing to Guadeloupe, and he was the man, as the captain, that took the responsibility. He's a defender by trade. He tried to go forward, tried to score, missed out very narrowly in that. But it's a great sign of a leader when he goes, okay, things aren't going quite right here. I'm going to take the responsibility. I'm going to try and win this game for us, John.
Yeah, absolutely. And the one thing too, Dennis, that a lot of players and a lot of coaches around the world look for in a player coming forward is this, like, he's the guy that opens up the game. So, and Shep knows this, playing with some of the best players in the back line, whether it be Franz Beckenbauer or Carlos Alberto. These players, when they take the ball and they run forward with it, they're always going to commit another player to them. When you do that, it's the domino effect. The next guy's open, the next guy's open, and teams have to step up and play. Stelteri's done that quite well.
Yeah, and I love it, and you do too, John, where, you know, when the game is even, I think a defender, whether it's an overlapping right back or left back, when he can get into the attack, that causes problems because now you have to match up. You're talking in Stelteri, this is a player with a pedigree. I mean, played for Werder Bremen, won the title in the Bundesliga, now he's with Tottenham, so no surprise that he's a standout player for this team.
Well, look, one guy that introduced himself to us right in the very first game is the man from Deportivo La Coruña. Of course, all the Spanish fans absolutely love him, De Guzman. Now, for him, how much of a key is he for Canada's success?
Oh, it's a huge, you know, integral part of their success because he's a player that likes to get on the ball as much as possible. He's never afraid to show for it. His communication skills are quite good. You know, that's a player who has loads of confidence. When he breathes confidence on the field, it helps the guy next to him and it picks up the team. So, look, very talented player, left foot, right foot. He can hit the ball anywhere, different directions and angles. And obviously, look, he's willing to take chances, Shep.
Yeah, and what I love about him is John starts out deep in the midfield, but obviously he gets into the attack. He's, as you pointed out, you know, great skill on the ball, left foot, right foot. You know, and he's a tough guy to mark. There's some types of players, John, you know, you just can't get a handle on him. You can't stop him. He's elusive. He's difficult to shut down. And I love him as a player. I think he's erratic in the best sense of the word.
I agree. And if Canada's going to have any success, Shep, they got to make sure that in terms of the back line, they're getting the ball off their feet early, their heads are picked up so they can find him to feet. They can find Di Rosario. If they're not doing that, then, you know, any opposition is going to have a good chance of being successful against them and really, you know, shutting down the passing lanes through the midfield.
Well, in terms of his actions on the pitch, he's definitely got plenty of personality. Well, for Guatemala, it was a pretty tough road for them to get through to the quarterfinals, but they managed to do that. They lost to the USA 1-0. Then they had a 1-0 victory over El Salvador and a 1-1 draw with Trinidad and Tobago. And the one thing that we've talked about, gentlemen, the one thing that's absolutely evident with Guatemala, John, is they are happy to disrupt other teams. That's how they work.
Yeah, they're a physical side, very compact and hard to break down. Not a lot of open seams through the midfield. You know, and you got Ruiz up there, who's always, you know, he's harassing, I think is the best word. He's harassing the defensive back line, and he tries to get in the other players' heads. And when he does that, I think he puts them off the game. Now, they lost the first game to the USA, but it wasn't a terrible loss. The U.S. weren't dominant in that game. Guatemala did enough, I think, to carry a little bit more momentum into the next match, which gave them the victory. And look, I think they're capable of playing some good football when they want to, Shep, but having said that, they have been a little bit inconsistent in their play.
I think John is being kind because I know what he really thinks about Carlos Ruiz.
Yeah.
He's a nasty player. He really is.
He is.
I like him. I like nasty players. And John's right. They're compact. They're organized. They're very disciplined. And they rely on Ruiz on both sides of the ball to be a nightmare. I mean, he will foul players anytime he gets a chance. There's a perfect example. Knocks Onyewu off the ball. He's just a feisty, combative type player, John.
And the one thing that, if he's on your side and he's battling like that and he's fighting for the ball, that's good. I mean, you need that as a striker, somebody who's like that. But the one thing that I don't particularly like about him, Shep, is that to me, he's a bit of, you don't want to say he's a cheat, but he is. He's a bit of a cheat and dishonest. No, seriously. Because, when you players, he's looking to hurt people, and he's lining up people in the wrong way. Instead of just saying, look, if there's a physical challenge there and there's a one-on-one, I'm going to go up for it in the air and be an honest player. Of course, guys are trying to knock other players off the ball when you can. But to me, being a cheat is like, and I learned this as the first thing in England, it's like you're an honest player. You try to stand up. All this diving and flopping about, like he's backing up into Gooch there on Yewu, and he's just falling for the sake of falling. So to me, that bothers me. I can't really respect a player that does that all over the field, and he does it from one game to the next.
We saw Guadeloupe disrupt Canada. Canada fell over. That's Guatemala's style. How do you think the Canadians will cope with Guatemala doing that to them?
Well, they've got to have a little bit more discipline and some patience.
Patience.
Absolutely. I mean, this is something that they're probably being prepared for, hopefully, by Stephen Hart. I mean, and that's where, the coach comes into play. He's got to put those focuses in their minds, but also at the same time have enough discipline in the back to be patient, keep the ball. Yeah. When they do turn it over, to not just stab and commit these fouls, in dangerous parts of the field.
I think it's a tough game. I totally agree with John that for Canada to be successful, they have to play to their strength. They have to be patient. They can't be frustrated. I think the Guatemalan team is going to upset them. I really do. I think, as John pointed out, they're very organized. They're very composed. They're especially in the midfield, because they always know they can look for Carlos Ruiz as an outlet. And I believe everything Harksey says about Ruiz. He is a nasty, I don't like the way he plays. Having said that, as he's gotten older, John, I think he's a better goal scorer, because he picks and chooses his times to get into that seam, to make a run, try and get a goal. So for Canada to win, they've got to be organized. They've got to be patient.
Well, Shep, I know also for Canada to win, they're going to have to get past Tregeño, because we've seen Canada can attack, but the man I think that has got Guatemala to the quarterfinals is this goalkeeper here.
Yeah, there's no question. And we've talked about how they play Guatemala. They rely on the big goalkeeper. Comes out, swats it away with the right hand, comes out near post, cuts down the angle. Here's nice free kick. Well, he didn't get to it, but he had it covered. So he's done a good job.
It's like a brotherhood, isn't it, goalkeeping? It's like a brotherhood. They
look
stick
out for each
together.
other, I tell you what. It's now, do you think, Shep, what is it that for goalkeepers, they have to be a little bit quicker, they have to be a little bit different? Why is that a personality trait for goalies?
Oh, first of all, John can say that to me. You shouldn't be saying that to me.
There's only a few people who can get away with that, those comments.
Goalkeepers are a little bit different for sure. They have to have the mentality. At the end of the day, the 10 guys running around the field, they can make mistakes. The goalkeeper makes a mistake, it's up on the scoreboard. So it takes a different mindset. Also for goalkeeper, it holds true for all players, John, but especially for goalkeeper. If you make a bad play, if you make a mistake, hey, it's over. Go on to the next play. If you every goalkeeper is going to make a glaring mistake and give up a bad goal. If you let it bother you, you're not going to have a very long career.
Right, and that's what they say about goalkeepers, but they also say it about strikers. The best thing to do is to have amnesia, where you forget about the mistakes, you forget about those plays, and you continue on. Really, all players should. But having said that, Shep, on the positive side, as a goalkeeper, they're individuals, and when they do make the big save, they're the hero in the game. So on that side of the coin, it's a little bit better for a goalkeeper, to have a great game and do well, and that breeds confidence throughout the back line as well. I know for myself, when I played with the U.S. side as well, and I would turn around and see Tony Meola behind me, I knew that with Tony in goal, there was a nice confidence that I had. I felt good about it, not just his saves that he would make, but also his distribution, the way he dictated the pace and controlled the rhythm. That is so important to a side doing well.
Well, will Tregeño keep Guatemala in the game, or will Canada end up beating the Guatemalan side? Our second quarterfinal is between the USA and Panama. When we come back, we take a look at that one.
Work like a pro. Play like a pro. Tackle tough jobs. Dominate the game. Destroy the competition. Go professional. Choose Makita.
Through the Football for Hope movement, FIFA is committed to protecting children and their rights, furthering social integration, and peace and reconciliation. Football for Hope champions health promotion and anti-discrimination. FIFA is firmly committed to using football to resolve some of the most pressing social challenges of our time. Football can change the world.
At the Gatorade Sports Science Institute, we test athletes in the lab. Because we know they'll be tested on the field. Gatorade, the most tested sports drink on the planet.
Welcome back to Inside the Gold Cup, where our second quarterfinal match on Saturday is between the USA and Panama. A huge game for the USA. And let's have a look at how they got to the quarterfinals. Undefeated, the only team to do that. The top qualifier, 1-0, a victory over Guatemala. 2-0, a victory over Trinidad and Tobago, and then a huge win to set them on their way into the knockout phase. A 4-0 victory over El Salvador. Well, Shep, is there any team that can stop the USA?
Yeah, I definitely think they're not through yet. They had a very impressive run in opening group play, no question. But having said that, John, Guatemala, not a great game, squeaked it out. Trinidad, you got a question now in hindsight, how good was Trinidad and Tobago? Not too good. And El Salvador, they had a very good game. I thought in the third game for the U.S., when they had already gone through, they played extremely well. That does not mean, as you know, that means they have a free ride to the championship game. Every game is going to be tough, but they certainly do look good.
Yeah, they look pretty good, Shep. I mean, I expect them to win these games, you know, with the U.S. side. I really do. I think a lot of the fans do as well. You know, when they played under Bruce Arena, it was a team that grew in confidence from one year to the next. In terms of results, I think they were able to pull off some very good results in building up their side to a world-respected, at least, power as a nation. And you know, I expect these results to come. So for me, it's not a surprise. I guess, you know, when you look at the teams that they're playing against, like Shep said, you got to really kind of weigh up which one's stronger and which one's not as strong. So they've done quite well, although, you know, they've still got their hands full, you know, in terms of what they're going into this next round.
Well, Panama, as we know, in the 2005 final, they managed to hold the US for 120 minutes. It went down to penalties. I know it's 2 years on, but does that ever linger in the back of your mind, John, as a player?
Yeah, absolutely does. I mean, when you think about it, this is the replay, you know, from 2005, the final. And so, look, it's a chance for Panama to kind of get a little revenge factor here. And yeah, it does. It's on the players' minds, I'm sure. Some of the players that have experienced that, some of them a lot of new faces, though, coming into this Gold Cup tournament under Bob Raleigh. And will they step up to the challenge?
Yes, well, one of the familiar faces is, of course, DeMarcus Beasley, and he has just had a sensational 3 games so far, Shep.
Yeah, I think out of all the players on the U.S. team, the one that has stood out for me has been DeMarcus Beasley, really because of how he's matured. Two years ago, DeMarcus was still growing as a player. He's still growing now, but he tried to do too much on his own. Here, Beasley finds a little spot, top of the box, just stabs it in with the right foot. I'd like John to see him develop an instep drive. But again, inside the left foot, over. That's just the end of a great passing sequence. He's playing superbly.
Yeah, he is. He's being busy. They call him the jitterbug. You know, he doesn't get that title for nothing. And, you know, he's always involved. So, you know, with his pace and everything, Shep, I think I agree with you in terms of him a little bit more mature now than what he used to be before he went to PSV. I think there was always these types of runs where it was a little bit too erratic in his game. And also, for me, he's never been a very good passer of the ball. So hopefully now he's learned from those experiences. He's gotten some experience in the EPL as well when he was on loan with Man City. And it's made him more of really a more confident player and a stronger player going forward in the attack.
Well, Shep, we talked in the office before the show, and I love these chats in the office before the show. Honestly, it's one of those times you walk in and you've got the 2 old sages that just know everything inside out. And you're saying that you've had a conversation on the phone. You've talked a little bit at length about the defence for the USA. Yeah,
I love those conversations too.
Oh, I love walking in there. These guys are like, I love it. I walk in and get blown away.
For John and I, those are the highlights of the day with you. But I had a chance to speak with one of the assistant coaches for the U.S. team, Peter Novak today about the U.S. team, and Peter was pointing out, John, that they're not concerned, the U.S. team, in terms of their ability to get forward, get behind the Panama back line, get to goal. Pretty confident the U.S. team can do that. If they had any concern, it was watching Panama against Mexico. So many quality scoring opportunities Panama had, and you look at the U.S. team really on the defensive side of the ball. If you take away Gooch Onyewu, if you take away Mastroeni, the average age and international experience on that team, extremely young.
Extremely young, and just even look at the cap situation there. You got Bornstein, Philhaber, and Parkhurst really with 10 caps between them. So, yeah, there is a lot of youth there, a lot of enthusiasm, which is great. And you always see these players, they work very hard, but in terms of intelligence and that state of mind of having this to play in the back line, how do you deal with a guy like Perez?
Right.
You know, who's going to mark this guy? And if, to me, I'm looking at, Gooch, and I think he's almost like a big thug on the field right now, the way he's playing, picking up yellow cards here and there, losing a bit of discipline. He's got to be smarter in his approach to the game if he's on the field, like Shep said. If he's not, the young team in the back, man, they got to really rise to the occasion. Something like a guy like Jonathan Spector, though, has a little bit more experience by playing the EPL as well.
There's no question, and you know it, John. I mean, you still got to do it at the next level. So the quality of the young guys on the defensive side of the ball, and I do agree with you. I come back to the position you used to play as a critical one. That midfielder or two midfielders, sweeping, controlling the flow of play in front of the back four. So, maybe you go with, obviously, Mastroeni. He's the best. Maybe a Ricardo Clark. The young guys, this is a whole new level for them.
Yeah, absolutely. And you want to make sure you're solid through that midfield line and you're picking off passing lanes. And Pablo right now, he didn't play in the first match. He was away with his club team playing against Houston Dynamo. Now he's back in with the side. You see him here scrapping and digging in. And he's a type of player, though, Shep, that at least is going to be a ball winner for you and break up plays. And you need that type of player who's going to off-balance some of the attacking, free-flowing football that you see from a guy like Clint Dempsey or a Landon Donovan or DeMarcus Beasley or Benny Philhaber for that matter. So hopefully he could solidify that midfield securing holding defensive line, which we had from the last show. In our question in the email. And I would like to see he and Ricardo Clark kind of next to each other and maybe give a little bit more freedom to Benny Philhaber or whoever he wants to choose for that role in front of him. Maybe even a Landon Donovan there. Maybe switches things up, puts Dempsey on the right side.
That's interesting.
One thing that's been evident with the USA is the one-touch passing, the speed of their passing, and speed on attack, particularly some of the names you mentioned like Dempsey, Donovan, Beasley, and of course the man I've just renamed, Chiching. He is just phenomenal every time he's taken the field for the USA.
Yeah.
Oh, Dennis, nobody's ever thought of calling him Chiching before. I mean,
I love him.
But
great.
I mean, John, break down the passing. One touch, great running off the ball.
Yeah, I mean, and this is what Shep said too. He goes, at least Landon Donovan, when he is on the outside, he's going to run at somebody and come into the play. And, they're moving the ball quickly here. They're picking their minds up. This looks like a play from the World Cup when actually Dempsey got on the end of it. But that's where Beasley used to put those balls in the box. This is a great ball by Ching. As Dennis said, he has been sharp in terms of his passing ability and holding it up. Here's Ching again, setting up this play. Dempsey with the no-look pass to the back post. And there's our man Beasley again.
Well, if we look ahead to Panama, or if we turn our attention to Panama, they started qualification in the round robin with a great victory over Honduras at 3-2, stuck it out, didn't have much of the ball and managed to do very well against them. Also a 2-2 draw with Cuba, which they looked a little bit shaky there. And then unfortunately, in my opinion, it's just my opinion, I think they were robbed against Mexico. Loads and loads of chances for them, but just couldn't convert to a 1-0 victory against Mexico. Now, the key story to Panama, key players out, multiple red cards for them. There's no Torres, no Escobar. There's a few injuries and a few other issues going on. How do you think they'll cope against the US with their squad diminished?
Well, I think you're right about it. I mean, nobody likes to get out of group play. They didn't have to get a result against Mexico, and the red card situation is devastating for them. You're talking about a player on the back, Torres, that they lose. You're talking about, I think, more importantly, Escobar in the midfield, because he makes those runs, gives the support to Perez up top. And they have to feel like they really got robbed, John, because, we saw the yellow cards, the 2 yellows for the red. We saw the straight red to Torres. I got to tell you, those were awful calls. So for Panama, they got to deal with it, but maybe they just, circle the wagons and say, guys, we got screwed. Let's go out and get a result.
Yeah, I mean, there's two ways always to look at it, right, Shep? And to me, the referee basically lost the plot in this match against Mexico. Too many cards, throwing him out there. Look, you see that's kind of an innocuous challenge there. He gets his first yellow. Look, was it a really vicious tackle? No. I mean, sometimes the referee's got to let that play. There's the other one, which is kind of a lazy tackle. You know what I mean? It's not needed. So there's his second yellow. He's off the pitch. This one here with Torres, for me, he comes in a little late, steps on his foot a bit, but come on, Guadardo, he makes the most out of that, embellishing that situation, and the referee. And
Same player, Guadardo, for the 2 yellows that sent Escobar out, and Guadardo, the player who went flying when Torres clipped him.
Yeah, well, the funny thing, Shep, is when we looked up about the referee, that's his uncle. So, these things happen in international. I'm just kidding, Concacaf. Only kidding. Yeah. The one thing, though, the point is when we were watching those games and we did look at the situation, right away we're thinking, okay, this is definitely going to benefit the USA. No matter what, if it's a key player or not, it still depletes their squad. And when you look to get this squad and healthy and players coming off the bench, no matter what. With Torres, for me, as a right back, remember in the first game, Torres has put 2 good balls into the box. One of them they scored off of with Perez. The second one, he got another goal in the other game. He's a dangerous guy coming forward, so they are going to miss him for sure.
Now, Perez and Garces, though, they've proven that they can score against any team. Is there some concern there for the USA? I know you mentioned the defence is young, but these guys, you make one error, they will capitalise on it, Shep.
Well, I think if anything that the U.S. has taken away from watching the game against Mexico that Panama played, I think they're concerned about the ability of Panama to get forward and attack. Beloy, it seemed like he was, getting forward, top of the box, hitting the post. Perez, we've talked about him, definitely one of the best strikers in this tournament. Garces has had a good game, good tournament as well. So the U.S. has to play with confidence, John. They have to be careful about those players getting forward. But still, I think in the end, the red card situation, the depleted squad for Panama, U.S. should get through.
Yeah, I would think they would get through, Shep. But having said that, too, the one thing that really stands out in my mind about this Panamanian side is that, and it's not just the attacking football that they have, but it's the set plays and the size and the strength and the power they have. They really do push numbers forward. When you talk about a Beloy, who's a captain, number 23, everybody, Michael Jordan fans out there, you got Perez as well. Who's going to pick them up? If Gooch is not on his game and Perez is getting the better of him, you got Spector with height in there as well. There's not a lot of huge guys on the U.S. side. Although, I mean, look, Ching's good in the air. He is. So maybe you take a guy like Ching, drop him back, and he's got to pick up Perez, and this is him here. Look at the size of this guy and the vertical leap as well.
Yeah,
so he's a dangerous player always. You got to keep an eye on him. The one thing, too, the U.S. has got to do is stop the supply to Perez. Stop those crosses. Just don't back off him. You got to really close down the ball. And that's the main thing. If you shut that down and you don't let them build out, you got to stop their transition. They transition very well.
You got to cut out the distribution. But I agree with you. Perez, for me in this tournament, he could be the best striker. And as you mentioned, John, that's what the U.S. has to deal with. Yep. He is awesome in the air. Great vertical leap. Great ability to hang in the air. Good with the left foot. Good with the right foot. Good pace. So he's a handful.
Yes, a real test for the USA in their quarterfinal match against Panama. A replay of the 2005 final. When we come back, we have a look at Sunday's quarterfinal matches.
At the Gatorade Sports Science Institute, we test athletes in the lab. Because we know they'll be tested on the field. Gatorade, the most tested sports drink on the planet.
The screenings that happen here might be fun or dramatic, but it's not real life. There's another screening that is real life, and it could save your life. It's a screening test for colorectal cancer, the second leading cancer killer of men and women. Screening finds precancerous polyps so they can be removed before they turn into cancer. I got screened. Now it's your turn, so you can stick around and enjoy the show.
If you're 50 or older, get screened for colorectal cancer.
Work like a pro. Play like a pro. Tackle tough jobs. Dominate the game. Destroy the competition. Go professional. Choose Makita.
If you were looking for technical analysis, my friend, you have come to the right place. Yes, this is Inside the Gold Cup, where we analyse every match, and we are previewing the quarterfinals. The third match is between Honduras and Guadeloupe. My name's Dennis Katsanis, with me Shep Messing and John Harks. And if we have a look at how Honduras got to the quarterfinals, the second best team in the competition, they lost to Panama 3-2. They beat Mexico, huge upset, 2-1, and a 5-0 victory over Cuba. And that victory, the biggest win so far in round robin, Shep, and they're looking very good.
Well, they are, Dennis, but the question is, were they that good against Cuba, or was Cuba that bad? And that's what we don't know about group play. I certainly think this Honduran team, John, is really, though, playing on all cylinders. Solid at the back, great in the midfield, and some big goal scorers up front.
Yeah, I think their strength is really throughout the midfield in terms of their ball circulation. I mean, they get it off their feet quickly, Shep. There's a lot of different players running out of the midfield, whether it be a Leon, who just came into the side. He's done wonders for this team, or Guevara as well. I mean, they share that responsibility getting forward, but Guevara more of a tucking-in guy right now, getting the freedom for Leon to get forward.
Yeah, I think the tandem in the midfield has really worked out. I think the missing link, if Honduras is going to go on much further, is getting Leon in, because he enables Guevara to sit back, tucked in back there, doesn't have any pressure to go forward unless it's for free kicks.
Yeah.
And Leon now is getting the ball to a guy who's on fire, Pavone. And how about Costly? The athletic ability of those guys, unbelievable.
Well, Pavone, I mean, the guy, it's like he can't miss the goal. He's putting it in the back of the net all day long, and he shows up on the doorstep, good quality, and look, loads of courage as well. I mean, seriously, a lot of strikers would go up there, look at the keeper, maybe shy away a little bit. He's straight through the ball. I love it. Lots of strength. Always put himself in good spots in the field, Shep.
Yeah, he's athletic, and he's a natural goal scorer. So I think this Honduras team really, all of a sudden, and I'm not going to say Cuba was bad, all of a sudden it clicked. When Leon came in, I think he was involved in 4 of the goals at least in terms of creativity. He's a great left-sided player. He's got that delicate touch. He can run at defenders, and when he's got the 2 big targets up front in Costly and Pavone, that's a very dangerous combination.
It is it's a lethal combination, and I think with Costly as well, we talked about Pavone and how versatile he is, how active he is, but Costly's a big boy as well. I mean, so he uses his strength, but look at this. I mean, he's great in the air, and if anything, they want to capitalize on that, Honduras, and maybe get more service into the box for these two. They seem to be coming up, Trump's here, and there's another one getting taken down, but he's making the game for himself. He's taking it to the defense, and he's going past him, and that's a great goal from an angle. So, look, when you think about it, do they have lethal weapons up front? And yes, they do, and they have a lot of guys through the midfield who are able to distribute to them. So, this is a side that they're starting to go from strength to strength. They're getting a little bit more confidence in their game, and this is a good time for it to happen.
What's the key to defending them? Is it tight? And when I say defending them, I mean Costly and Pavone, John.
No, I just think that, like we just talked about, if teams are going to mark them, it's going to be hard to do a one-on-one situation because of their physical size. So you've got to have good cover and balance around the box, on both sides of the ball. And, now you got to shut down the midfield. So if anything, you want to high press Honduras, to get a result. You don't want to sit back because they will pick you apart. And again, if you give him more time and freedom, there's so many guys that are great players. Everybody says, oh, when he gets the space and time to play, he can play. Yeah, that's true, but everybody can do that. My dad's a good passer to the ball in the backyard. So if I give him time and space, he's going to do that. So shut them down early. Put more pressure on the ball, and don't let them come out of the back and distribute.
Well, the question is, can Guadeloupe do that?
Well, yes, the Guadeloupe side, the fairy tale team of this tournament. Bit of mixed fortune in qualifying, but nonetheless have taken all their opportunities. They won or draw with Haiti, that victorious 2-1 win over Canada, and a narrow loss to Costa Rica. And when it comes to looking at this Guadeloupe side, it's all about one man, all about that. You love him. I know you love him. He's 41 years old. It's Anglomar, isn't it?
Well, that's about all there is to love, really, because the story, man for man, they really should not be able to compete with Honduras. But the story of Angloma. He's 41 years old. He's got 37 caps playing for France at the international level. And now he's doing this really out of love. And John, you made a good point about him. This is the miracle moment, really, that sends them out of group play into the quarterfinals, chipping Canada's Greg Sutton in the beginning of the game. And look at the smile. I mean,
Yeah.
I know you like it, John. He's raising his teammates up on his shoulder.
Absolutely. It's a spiritual lifting type moment there. And not only just because of his individual talent, it's a great volley, but the vision to see that and to take the chance and execute it is fantastic. And smiling all the time. And we just spoke about it. There's always players that you come across in your game, and whether you watch them and support them as fans. Johan Cruyff always said, make sure that when you're digging in and you're playing soccer that you smile and you show people how much you love the game. And he expresses that through his play, but also that, you know, just that happiness. I mean, whether he's in a tackle or he's in a throw-in, but he's lifting people all the time. A great player to watch.
And that's the chance, I think, Dennis, that and John, that they have against Honduras. They have nothing to lose, everything to gain, and they can afford to come out and play, like you said, John, defensively. Hey, give it 100%, shut down the ball, pressure the ball, and when you win it, go forward. You know, maybe great things happen.
I'm not trying to get smart here or wind you guys up or anything, but as a 41-year-old, what's it like for him, like as you're getting older, to run on the park with guys that are half your age?
Well, anytime you say something silly, I'm going to bring a Kiwi out, a Kiwi.
Yeah.
It's a Kiwi moment.
No, but it's, you know, it must be for him trying to keep up 40 minutes or half a game.
John pointed it out before, though. I think the thing about Angloma, he's played at a big level. He knows when to make the run. He knows when to conserve energy. He knows when to get forward. He's not going to be going high pressure for 90 minutes. He's going to pick his spots and hopefully contribute to his team.
Yeah, and I think, you know, there's a point two, Shep, that you had mentioned a little bit earlier. We were discussing this just about Guadeloupe, how they have to go for it and express themselves. And I think one thing that they can do well, if they get the discipline enough, is to pack it in and then use players going forward. They do have some pace as well, Guadeloupe. So, look, at the end of the day, you know, even like they got experience like from, you know, Coupe as well, who plays in Nantes, I mean, France. I mean, this is a player that can turn a game too through the midfield. So, good players. Will they have enough on the day to, you know, overrun Honduras? I'm not so sure. I think Honduras has the edge here, but it'll be an interesting game to watch.
I saw you guys whispering. I was wondering what was going on. Did you see that? Premeditated. Brought a kiwi fruit into the studio. Well, when we return, it is the last quarterfinal match between Mexico and Costa Rica. And here's a little bit just for your information.
Work like a pro. Play like a pro. Tackle tough jobs. Dominate the game. Destroy the competition. Go professional. Choose Makita.
Through the Football for Hope movement, FIFA is committed to protecting children and their rights, furthering social integration and peace and reconciliation. Football for Hope champions health promotion and anti-discrimination. FIFA is firmly committed to using football to resolve some of the most pressing social challenges of our time. Football can change the world.
At the Gatorade Sports Science Institute, we test athletes in the lab. Because we know they'll be tested on the field. Gatorade, the most tested sports drink on the planet.
Welcome back to Inside the Gold Cup, where our last quarterfinal match is between Costa Rica and Mexico. And for the Mexicans, it was a tough road to the quarterfinals, to say the least. A 2-1 victory over Cuba, then a loss to Honduras, and a scrappy 1-0 victory over Panama. And Shep, the whole way through group play, they've looked shaky.
Yeah, Dennis, there's no question. And guys, maybe in retrospect, everybody was shocked when they lost to Honduras, John. But seeing what they did against Panama, even when they were man up and then 2-man up, I thought they were outplayed by Panama. So a very difficult opening round for this team from Mexico. I vacillate. You know, sometimes I say they're going to get it right. They have too much talent. They're going to play well. But after watching them against Panama, I'm giving up a little bit.
Yeah, I think so too, Shep, and I think a good point. You know, you talk about the scrappy win over Panama, but let's not forget about the game against Cuba in the opening games of this tournament. They go down 1-0, and then they've got to fight and scrape and claw to get back into it against the Cuba side, which were, you know, we talked about them. They were a surprising team in this early round, but having said that, there hasn't been one game where there's really a convincing win from Mexico. They've had the struggles, and I do think that teams know this, and so when you match up against them, I think a lot of teams are going to say, hey, let's get out and really put more pressure on them, and especially in this next round, it's going to be difficult for them. In
fairness to the Mexican side, they do have that experience. They do have that ability to be able to grind it out, even if they're not performing well, Shep.
Well, I think you're right, Dennis, but I don't think that's the style of play that the passionate Mexican fans are used to seeing. If they're going to hang their hat on anything, John, you know, they still have star quality marquee players. They have Borghetti, they have Castillo. The question is, you know, what lineup are you going to put on the field? Is Blanco going to be in the lineup? So Hugo Sanchez under tremendous pressure, all kinds of talk about dissension in the locker room. I mean, you know, questions get answered in the knockout phase.
There's just a lot of negative things right now that are surrounding this side. So, you know, you got to talk about the individuals. Can they stand up and be leaders? Can they perform like as everybody thinks they can? And one of the guys that we're talking about is Jared Borghetti up front. And he's a guy that's a big target player. You know, he gets his head on things as he does here from Bautista. This is getting him back into the game from Mexico when they were down 1-0 to Cuba. This game played at Giant Stadium. But again, another one laid back to Castillo here again. So, you know, he's a dangerous guy, Chef.
Yeah, they have guys that they can play off of and look to. I mean, Borghetti is a leader. Right? He's not young. He's not inexperienced. He's seen it all. I think he's the type of player, John and Dennis, that can say, you know what, whatever's going on with the coach and the tension and the locker room, I'm here to win. So he's a lethal target player that can play with his back to the goal, lay a ball back, or he could go straight to goal.
Well, John, you mentioned that. You mentioned about if a coach is under pressure, if a coach is stressed out, that comes into the dressing room and then it makes its way out onto the pitch. And it's highly evident with Mexico that this is happening.
Yeah, I think so. I think Hugo Sanchez has been put into the hot seat, and it always is a hot seat when you're coaching the national team of Mexico because, like Shep said, the fans expect quite a lot. And when you don't deliver, that's supply and demand, when you don't actually deliver, there's going to be pressure on you. But I think it's his coaching style. There's a personality thing that a lot of, you know, media and individuals have spoken about, and this being a real big distraction for a Mexican side who's normally really free-flowing football, quick movement off the ball, and they seem to be a little bit fragmented in what they're trying to do here. So they're not playing sound in terms of their football, and also, you know, with all these distractions, will it be like what Shep just said? Will it be a guy like Borghetti to be a leader who picks the team up?
Could it be someone like Castillo that steps up, Shep?
Well, there's no question they need something, the Mexican team. And you know, Castillo, and I know John likes him as a player, so do I. I mean, he is a very skillful player. Here he's just pouncing on a goalkeeper error. But, you know, opportunistic, you follow the shot to goal and you stick it in. This is a left-footed crack off the Borghetti header that he slams off the far post.
Yeah, I mean, I think he's capable of doing some great things, Castillo. Unfortunately, for Mexico, he's been inconsistent in his game as well. So who's going to step on the field and which player is going to show up? That's the big question mark for Mexico.
Blanco, do you think we'll see him start?
You know what? It's probably a situation where Sanchez is going to say, yeah, I'm going to have to rely on a lot of experience right now. So, yeah, I would think you would see Blanco on the field. Bautista played in the second match. You haven't seen him. He didn't play in the third match. So, yeah, I would think Blanco would be on the pitch if he's healthy. If he's in the right frame of mind, is he a good enough player? I don't think so. He's not the same player as he used to be, but can he still have some type of quality on the field that's going to lend to them getting a victory over a Costa Rican side? Probably. I think that Costa Rica, though, pretty sound in the back. They've been stingy in terms of giving goals away. They haven't given up a lot. So, hopefully they can get something sorted out.
Yes, it has been stingy for Costa Rica, but stingy in both departments. Yes, Costa Rica giving away just the 3 goals, but they've only scored 3 goals. They opened their campaign with a loss to Canada, 2-1, the deficit there, and then a 1-1 draw with Haiti, and they managed to beat Guadeloupe by 1-0. And for Costa Rica, do you think that maybe we'd expected a little bit too much from them going into this tournament, because they had some very big results in friendlies, Shep?
Yeah, great expectations, yes, but I think a little unrealistic. They are what they are. I mean, they have one player that's outstanding in Centeno. He scored all their goals in group play. But when it really comes down to it, who has he done it against? You look at him as an individual player, John, he's got all the tools. I mean, he cuts this ball back to the right foot. You can't hit a ball any better than that, bending it to the far post. He's great on the ball, but you need teammates to get you the ball. Most of his goals, this one on a free kick, all of his goals in opening round in group play came through traffic. He really never got behind the defense.
No, he didn't, Shep, but the one thing about him is he's a powerful player too, even for his size. I mean, his explosive pace in the first 2-3 touches on the ball are very quick, and he's agile. So, I mean, look, he's a dangerous guy. Is he going to be the player that leads them to the next victory? It's difficult to say. There's never a one-man team that gets through. It's always about team. It's about the players around him as well. And Costa Rica, for me, has been a side that maybe can disrupt this Mexican team by just, rattling their cage a little bit, getting a little bit more physical than what they have with some of the other games.
Yeah, that's a great point, because I think I actually give Costa Rica a chance, because this would be a great, great moment for them. They could feel that the Mexican team is not doing well.
Right.
They know it's an opportunity, and I think first, if they could disrupt the game, not let Mexico get into any flow, stay compact, stay organized, hope to get a free kick, get Centeno the ball, play through them. This is a great opportunity to take advantage of a powerhouse and maybe get a big upset victory.
Yeah, having said that too, for me, I think they're 2 teams that are kind of average teams. Right now in this tournament, in this situation, I think they're both average teams. They're not. Costa Rica is not a team that stands out in mind that you say they're brilliant, they're good at this, they're good at that. There's a few little things that there's some bright spots for them, and it's the same with Mexico as well. When they show up, there's a few bright spots for them as well. So 2 average teams going up in battle here. Who's going to win the battle of the wits, really, at the end of the day?
Now we know, and it's been well documented, that some of the players aren't happy with Hugo Sanchez in the dressing room. Is there a point, guys, where you go, well, hey, we've got to do this for our fans, we've got to do this for Mexico, that makes some of the players might just go, right, we're getting on the field here, we're going to play our game, we're going to do it, we're going to win this, and forget about what's happening in the dressing room, Shep?
Yeah, actually, I'm not going to hold up the Kiwi, because that's a good point you make. And just back to the coaching for a minute, Sean. You talked about Johan Cruyff, who I played against. And, there are many, and I'm talking about Hugo Sanchez, there are many great international players who don't make it as coaches, maybe because they just, Hugo Sanchez, you see him on the sideline, you see the body language. It's almost like anything that they're not doing as well as he thinks he did as a player is unacceptable. But, back to Dennis's point, yes, I think there's a moment where players say, hey, guys, we're here, we're looking bad, we're playing in front of unbelievable crowds. Let's try and get the job done. Let's circle the wagons. It's us 11 on the field, not Hugo Sanchez. And we're the ones that are on TV, and we have all of Mexico watching us. Let's get the job done.
Yes, who will step up in that final quarterfinal match? Will it be Costa Rica or Mexico? One to definitely look forward to. When we come back, we answer all your emails and questions for Shep and John on Inside the Gold Cup.
At the Gatorade Sports Science Institute, we test athletes in the lab. Because we know they'll be tested on the field. Gatorade, the most tested sports drink on the planet.
The screenings that happen here might be fun or dramatic, but it's not real life. There's another screening that is real life, and it could save your life. It's a screening test for colorectal cancer. the second leading cancer killer of men and women. Screening finds precancerous polyps so they can be removed before they turn into cancer. I got screened. Now it's your turn, so you can stick around and enjoy the show.
If you're 50 or older, get screened for colorectal cancer.
Work like a pro. Play like a pro. Tackle tough jobs. Dominate the game. Destroy the competition. Go professional. Choose Makita.
Welcome back to Inside the Gold Cup, my favourite part of the show. This is where we get to answer your emails. And Shep, no, I kid you not. You have got one of the most dedicated fans, and what they have done is they decided to write us a little letter about how much they loved you, and then they sent us some of the pictures that they collected in their collection of you, and this is what they look like. How cool is that, man? Unbelievable. Now, the one that concerns me a little bit is this one, just a smidge, because most men don't have a star, you know. But I don't know about you. Like I heard you a little bit different.
Most men don't have a star.
Kiwi, you could aspire to greatness. If people want to see a photo spread of you, they can probably find one in Popular Mechanics under small appliances.
And good modeling spark plugs.
I don't know if you had that checked out and sorted, but you know.
That was pretty cool, actually.
No, that was
See how
cool.
fit that man was?
That was good stuff.
Hey, I'll tell you what.
Fit he was? Still got it. Still got
I know,
it.
look at that, mate. You've seen him with his cut-offs, mate.
I did actually. The other day we came in and we were late for the show a little bit, and he was over there bench pressing like 600 pounds.
No,
It's
but
unreal.
seriously, the real email, the for real email, as we like to say, is from Mark, and a very, very good email indeed. Mark from California writes, if there was a weakness in the US team to prevent them from advancing to the finals, what is it? And what would be the strategy to exploit that flaw, Shep?
Well, that's a great email. And Mark, as you just previously saw, I know more about magazines than I do about coaching strategy, but I'll give a general reply. There's not one flaw that I think anybody can expose, but if there is anything I would have some concern with, John, in terms of the U.S. team, it's the relatively inexperienced on the defensive side of the ball. If you take away Guchanyewu, if you take away Pablo Mastroeni, it's really a young group. But you're the coach, you're the analytical mind. What are your thoughts?
No, I agree with you. I mean, there's nothing else really to go for. You know, in terms of the defense, it's very young. We talked about the average age of that defense in terms of how many caps they have as well. These are players that are getting an opportunity to play, and this is a great, you know, we talked about the platform before with the Gold Cup. So it was a great opportunity for players to expose themselves to the international game. And look, if it's a weakness, yeah, and how do you exploit it? Well, you high press. I mean, it's basically, it's a very simple situation. To get after these players, put them under pressure, don't let them have time to pick their heads up and pick players out up front, whether it be Eddie Johnson, a Ching, or a Clint Dempsey. So, you know, that's the way that you exploit the U.S. if that's a weakness.
And what we'd like you to do is exploit your keyboard. Yes, tap away. Mail us at mail@awesomeballs.com. That's mail@awesomeballs.com. Anything you want to know about the competition, anything that's going on in Concacaf, take a look at www.concacaf.com or www.goldcup.org. Remember, tomorrow we begin with all the quarterfinals action from the first day. Saturday, we've got Canada and Guatemala, and the big one, the USA and Panama, a replay of the 2005 final. We'll see you tomorrow night on Inside the Gold Cup.
The reproduction, distribution, publication, modification, public display, public performance, or transmission of this broadcast in any manner, in whole or in part, without the express written consent of Concacaf, is strictly prohibited.